You ever stop and think about how a war happening thousands of miles away could actually have an impact on the medicine sitting in your own cabinet? It sounds pretty far-fetched, right? Well, today, we're going to trace the invisible threads that connect a conflict in the Middle East directly to a potential health crisis right here in India.
So let's just ask it straight up. Could a war in the Middle East really lead to a shortage of something as simple as paracetamol in India? The answer, surprisingly, is yes. And the story of how it all connects, well, it really shows us just how fragile our global supply chains are.
All right, let's start our investigation. And you might be surprised where we begin. We're not starting with medicine, we're starting with something much more basic to modern life: fuel. Specifically, a critical shortage of industrial fuel that's threatening to grind factories to a halt.
So here's how the dominoes fall. It all kicks off with that conflict in the Middle East, which messes up shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. That's the world's most important route for oil and gas. This has basically choked off the supply of stuff like liquefied natural gas, or LNG, and propane. And the direct result of that? Indian factories are now facing a really serious shortage of industrial LPG. And let's be super clear here. We're not talking about the gas cylinder you use for cooking in your kitchen. This is industrial-grade LPG. It's the absolute lifeblood for these big factories. It powers the massive boilers that create steam for all the machinery, and it's essential for things like sterilization. Without it, the whole production line just stops.
Okay, so this fuel shortage, now it escalates. And this is where we get to the main event, the impact on the pharmaceutical sector. This is the moment an industrial problem could become a real public health concern. To really get the scale of this, we need to talk about something called APIs. That stands for active pharmaceutical ingredients. Think of it as the main powerhouse ingredient in a drug, the part that actually does the work. And this is so critical because India is a global giant when it comes to making these APIs. We're often called the pharmacy of the world for a reason.
So what medicines are we actually talking about here? This isn't some list of obscure, niche drugs. No, we're looking at things you see every day. Paracetamol for fever and pain, metformin for diabetes, common antibiotics, even basics like vitamin C, syringes, and gloves. These are absolute essentials, and their production is now at risk.
And look, this isn't just me speculating. Listen to this pretty stark warning from Dinesh Dua, the former chairman of Pharmaxil. He said that if this fuel shortage keeps up, we could see around 200 drug companies have to completely stop production in the next week to 10 days. That is a massive and very immediate threat.
Now, let's talk money. The potential loss here, just to India's pharmaceutical exports, could hit 3,000 crore rupees. So this isn't just a domestic health issue, it's a huge economic blow to one of our most important global industries.
But wait, this story doesn't end with pharma. Not even close. This is a chain reaction, and the shockwaves are spreading across other absolutely vital parts of the Indian economy.
Let's take fertilizers, for example. Here, natural gas isn't just a fuel to run the machines. It's actually a key raw material, a feedstock, that's used to make essential fertilizers like urea. So a gas shortage directly means a fertilizer shortage, and right before the main planting season too.
And we're already seeing the results. Just look at these numbers. The prices of certain imported fertilizers have already shot up by 10 to 20%. Other nutrients are up by 20%. And you know who that cost gets passed down to? The farmers. And that, of course, affects food production and prices for all of us.
Next up, steel, the backbone of our manufacturing sector. Making steel is incredibly energy hungry. You need constant blazing hot temperatures. So you can imagine how vulnerable the industry is to any kind of fuel disruption. And the squeeze is definitely on. Big players like JSW Steel have already gotten something called a force majeure notice from their gas supplier. That's basically a legal notice saying, hey, because of the conflict, we can't deliver the gas we promised. And while the big companies are feeling the heat, it's the smaller businesses, the MSMEs, that are getting hit the hardest. So, with all these essential industries under a threat, what's being done? What's the response? And what's the reality on the ground? Well, this is where you see a really tough choice being made. The government's #1 priority, and you can understand why, is making sure there's enough LPG for everyone's home kitchens. But on the other side, the pharma industry is pushing hard, asking for their fuel supply to be labeled an essential commodity. That would give them priority, just like they had during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, for a little bit of perspective, an industry expert has said that we do have about 3 to 6 months of stock for most medicines, so there's no need to panic right this second. But, and this is a big but, they also warned that if the war drags on, long-term problems are a very real possibility. That buffer is there, but it's not going to last forever.
And this really brings us to the big final question, doesn't it? This whole situation, from a conflict zone far away to a potential medicine shortage right here at home. It's a perfect, powerful case study. It really forces us to ask, in a world that is so deeply connected, how prepared are the supply chains that we rely on for everything, every single day?